It's been about 7 years since I first started learning Unity, and I do love Unity, the game engine, but there's been some questionable things about Unity, the company, lately. You might have heard about the whole price per install drama they had, and they did backtrack on it, but they lost a lot of trust as a company. I figured maybe I shouldn't have all my eggs in one basket, which is why I decided it's time for me to learn Godot. Godot is a free open source engine that's been increasing in popularity, especially since Unity shot themselves in the foot. So, my plan to learn Godot is to port a game I have already built in Unity. This is Burb Hike, a game I have previously made for GMTK Game Jam back in 2022, which was actually one of the winning games of that year. Since the jam, I've added some nice little animations when the dice value changes, as well as a level editor. We'll get to both of these in a minute. Starting with an empty Godot project, I thought the easiest way of porting my game is simply to paste my code from the Unity project straight into the Godot project. From here, I can focus on all the errors that make the code not compile. For example, mono behavior becomes node 2D, serialized field is going to become export, and vector 3 can become a vector 2, which makes a lot of sense for a 2D project. I like that Godot uses vector 2s in a 2D project. Another thing I did was redo the twinning animations, and Godot actually provides twinning out of the box, whereas in Unity I had to use an external library. I previously used .tween, so it's pretty nice that Godot provides that. I think you get the point by now. There was a lot of fiddling with the code to get to play nice with Godot. It was honestly shocking how smoothly I could get the project up and running just by copy-pasting my code from Unity. Here we can see the tweens as well. One thing that wasn't as smooth in Godot was the input. What Unity allows you to do is treat WSD as a 2D vector input, which basically means I can treat WSD exactly the same as I would a joystick on a gamepad. As far as I can tell, this isn't possible in Godot. I can't have AD behave the same as left-right on a joystick. It's not an axis, it's button presses. So if I ever want to add gamepad support in the future, I basically have to write the input code twice for each thing, and it's slightly less convenient than it is in Unity. Next thing I did was add the backgrounds. In Unity I have a sprite renderer that's tiled. In Godot I couldn't quite figure out how to do that. I ended up using a shader instead. Moving on from that, let's talk about the level editor. In order to get that working, there are a few things I need to do, like figure out what object is under my cursor or do selection boxes. This was another pain point for me. Let me show you why. Here's how this works in Unity. I create a ray from camera.screenPointArray. This is based on my mouse input. Then I can cast that ray using physics2d.raycast. And finally, I can check if that ray hits anything, and if it does, check if it has an entity component. And there you go, I have the entity, I can do stuff with it now. Let's see how this works in Godot as well. First, I need to get the space state using getWorld2D.directSpaceState. This only works inside a node2D object. Then I need to create a query object, set parameters to it. One of those parameters is the position, and in order for me to get the position I want, I need to do this mess. get canvas transfer.affine inverse to get the transform matrix from view to world, and then get the mouse position from my viewport and apply that transform to it. Keep in mind that in Unity, I can just use the mouse input directly to get my ray. And then I can do spacestate.intersect point, which is gonna give me a dictionary. I go through the dictionary and I can find what that raycast hit. So overall, it's not super different, but there's more steps than I would like. First, I need to create this completely separate query object, and getting the world position of the cursor has some more steps to it as well. What was even more painful was doing the selection box. Let me show you why. So in Unity, I have physics2d.overlap area all. All this takes is 2 positions, and it's gonna return me all the colliders in that area, and then I can go over them and I can do stuff with them. Meanwhile, in Godot, I have direct spacestate.intersect shape. As mentioned before, I need to make a query object. The query object is gonna need a transform set, so I can tell it the position. Then it's gonna need a shape set, which means I have to create another shape object and give it a size. All of this code is a single line in Unity. And it took me quite a while to figure all of this out. To be honest, resources for Godot just aren't as good. Here I have the Godot documentation for Shapecast2D. Nowhere on this page is there a code example. And that would help me so much. Even if I Google for something simple like a boxcast, the resources aren't super great. I might find something like a Reddit post, but I would like more than that. From what I remember when I used to learn Unity, it wasn't that bad. You would find answers to basic questions very easily, and it doesn't feel like that's the case in Godot. At this point in the project is where I stopped. I didn't quite reach feature parity with the level editor that I made in Unity, but I think this is enough for me to reach some conclusions about Godot. So, as I mentioned previously, I had trouble finding good resources to find out how to do stuff. Several things were not quite as convenient as I would have liked. Things like the input having to be different in between keyboard and gamepad. Things like the raycast that just takes so much more code to get up and running. With all of that being said, I still think Godot is a perfectly capable engine. Despite some troubles, I did manage to implement everything. The thing is, learning a game engine has so many complex things to it and there's so many hurdles to overcome. And I've already overcame a lot of those hurdles in Unity, and I feel like for me personally, I can't justify going through that again in Godot when Unity exists. I'm just so much more confident doing stuff in Unity. If working on a project in Godot instead of Unity makes my life 50% harder, let's say, then that might make the difference between me finishing a project and not finishing it. At the minute, I've only scratched the surface in Godot, and I might be wrong about some things. I would like to explore Godot in a game jam, but at the time of recording this, Godot doesn't support web builds in C# in the latest version of Godot, and for a game jam, that's a big deal. You don't want to force people to download your game that they're only gonna play for 5 minutes. It really hurts your visibility in a game jam. This is only the case for C#, but I don't see myself using GDiscript as scripting language over C#. I just prefer C#. So, me personally, I'll keep using Unity for my stuff, If you're a brand new developer and you're asking which engine to learn for the first time, it's honestly not as clear cut. I can recommend you look into Godot. And I'm really curious how all of this is gonna turn up in the future. It should be all uphill from here for Godot, right? And who knows what other stupid shit Unity as a company is gonna do. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble about game engines. I'll catch you all next time.